And here's lesson 68, using your calculator. We're going to do three things today. Um, Two of those things have to do with finding roots and using exponents, so those are basically one and the same. And the third thing is what we're going to start with, which is scientific notation. So this calculator that I have up to the outside of this question, or this screen right now, is not a simulator. I'm just going to be able to indicate the buttons, and I will bring up my calculator in a moment in order to see the actual answers that we're getting here. But we need to start to be able to multiply something like 3.02 times 10 to the fifth times 14.1 times 10 to the negative third. There are many different calculators that you guys all have in class, and I am only showing this particular one. I am more than happy to sit down with each of you individually in the Math Center at any point to make sure that you know how to use your calculator. I will show you the basic buttons on this particular one. And as long as you can get the right answer and you understand how to get the right answer, then that shouldn't be, we shouldn't have that big of a difference between the different types of calculators. So let's start with this particular question. With this particular question, you don't end up writing times 10 to the fifth. If you are going to be writing 3.02 times 10 to the fifth, you put it in as 3.02, as you normally would, and then you hit this button right here, which is EE. Now, some of you, I think your calculators have the EE as the second. You'd have to hit Shift, but you have to find that EE. And then when you hit EE, all you have to hit is the 5. So it would be 3.02 EE 5. The EE stands for times 10 to the fifth. You can see actually how that works on my calculator. I have already installed this 3.02 e to the fifth. That's 3.02 times 10 to the fifth times 14.1 times 10 to the negative third. Make sure you're using the negative button and not the subtraction button. There's a negative button down here. Okay, if you use negative, they're going to give you an error message. You bring this answer up. Okay, this particular answer is actually not written in scientific notation, as it turns out. If a question is starting in scientific notation, it should be ending in scientific notation. So if I write 4,258.2, I would be rewriting this answer as exactly 4.2582 times 10 to the third. You can multiply or divide with scientific notation on your calculator. You need to be able to know how to do those. Again, the big button here is this EE button. All right, moving on. So moving on to exponents. We are starting with understanding how the calculator multiplies something like 16 squared. Well, most of us have a squared button on our calculators. You would just have typed in 16 squared. But what about, of course, when we start to say, what about 16 to the third, even 16 to the 7.1, or to a negative exponent? Totally possible and legitimate. This button up here, this y to the x button, now this will be different on many people's calculators. Some people it's x to the y, or y to the x, as you see it here. And some of you are going to have to put in the 16, then hit the button, and then the answer, or then the exponent rather. And some of you are going to have to put in the exponent first, and then the answer. Then the base to get your answer. So here are the four answers that you should be able to get. So on my calculator, obviously it looks a little bit different, but it'll be 16 squared, of course. You're able to use the square button, no problem. 256. 16 to the third. Did you get 4096? 16 raised to the 7.1 gives you a big number and a decimal. And then how about 16 to the, make sure you use the negative button again, not the minus sign, to the negative 2.11 and you get a number that's in decimal form. So that's one function that you'll need to know, which is finding exponents. And the last piece of the lesson is finding roots. Finding roots that are square roots, very easy. Everyone's using this button in here. You want the square root of 9. All you have to do is tap that button, put a 9, then tap that button. Now we are going to use the second key and the button we just used. So this says the xth root of y. Some calculators will say the yth root of x. And some of you guys are going to be able to, again, type this in kind of as you see it over to the left-hand side over here. Some of you guys are going to have to type it in backwards. But again, as long as you're getting the answers that I'm about to show you, you should be fine. We're looking for the square root of 9, the third root of 9, the fourth root of 9, and the 2.11 root of 9. Or 2.11 root of 9. So here we go. I guess I start with the answer, but just to show you how I end up doing this, and obviously you guys are all going to have this calculator at some point. So on this particular calculator, I actually easily can see the square root of 9. That's not a big deal. That's 3. Of course, you can do that. And then if I go to math here, I can actually find the cube root of some number of 9. If I want to start putting in numbers that are different than just a square or cube root, first I put that number in, like some of you are going to do. Then I go to math, and then you see here it actually looks just like this number 5 looks just like that button, the x root of y. So I say 5 there. So the fourth root of what number? Of 9 here. So I'm looking at that, 1.732. Kind of looks very similar to another number that you should have a grasp of at this point, which is the square root of 3. It is the square root of 3, and you need to know that number for sure. And then the last thing we have to do is the 2.11 root of 9, and that will be 2.11 math root of 9, 2.833. So that was lesson 68 using calculator. I hope you can get all those answers that we got. If you have any questions, come and see me. And have a great day. See you tomorrow.